welcome back to my channel. I wanted to start with some transparency about the video that you are about to watch. This video is very much a highlight reel of the trip that we took in Italy, and you might think that's very normal. That is social media, and I wanted to make it clear that I only filmed a fraction of each day. Normally when we were visiting an attraction or getting something yummy to eat, you know, sharing these museums and bookshops, and I say all this because Naples was very different from what we had been sold through social media, and I don't want to make a video in good conscience that perhaps would encourage you to maybe go and have the same reaction that myself and my partner did. As much as we really tried to make the most of every single day, and there were moments of joy, I won't deny that at all, but we found it upsetting that what we had been advertised was very different to our lived experience. I will go into why those reasons were at the end of this video. I would love for you to enjoy the vlog, but if you stay tuned to the end of this video, I will give you a quick rundown. So I hope you enjoy this video regardless, even with that kind of warning. I also fully appreciate what a first world problem it is to have a trip that doesn't meet your expectations or provide you with the amount of enjoyment that you are even half expecting to have. But I hope you still enjoy the video regardless. So this is my second attempt to record the audio for this video. I lost and corrupted the original soundtrack, so you're going to get a very chill, very chatty, not so much an informational tourist guide to Italy or Naples, but just a very chatty, personalised experience of how and what we enjoyed on this holiday. Good afternoon, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell today, we are not at home. We are in Italy, we are in Naples, in Napoli, and I want to take you along for a couple of days of the holiday to see some of the things we're getting up to, share some of the food, but also there's 2 or 3 little literary adventures that I want to go on, and there's also some really cute Italian bookshops as well, and stationery places, and we've got a few days of adventures ahead of us, so I want to take you along on a couple of days and share what we're up to. Our flight was at... Yes, hang on one sec. Our flight was at 5 AM, so we had to be at the airport for 3. We've been up since about 1:45, so I'm very tired, and it's showing. So bear with me on this first day. I wanted to share with you a quick apartment tour of the place that we were staying in. It was much bigger and brighter and airier than the pictures, and that was really reassuring. It was centrally located, so perfectly positioned for exploring Naples. It was very clean, very bright. The only small downside was that the bed was too firm for me to be able to sleep in it. I tried a couple of nights and then ended up sleeping on that sofa most of the holiday. We pretty much unpacked and were ready to go straight back out to start exploring the city. I have showered. I need to eat and drink something because I'm so overstimulated from just being in the airport this morning, and I need like a pint of squash or like a big pint of like full fat Coke, and let's go find some pizza. I'm really hoping for pizza. One of the foods in Naples I was most excited to try was a pizza fritti, and this is a deep fried pizza, kind of like a calzone, but with the light fluffy texture and crunch of a churro. This was so delicious, and after this we decided to do a big walk of the city and start exploring, which is how we came to this gorgeous little square and this particular church. This is the Chiesa del Gesù Novo, and it is stunning. This is a church that was built in the late 16th century. It is Roman Catholic, and it's one of the most beautiful places I have ever visited. This is an entirely free place to visit. In Italy you will find that there are so many incredible places of worship, and most of them, other than the Vatican, are free, and I would recommend stopping into any church or place of worship if this is your cup of tea when you're in Italy. This place had the most incredible atmosphere and ambience, and I felt quite emotional walking around this. We spent a long time here, and these pictures don't do it justice. It has a mix of both Renaissance and Baroque style architecture and paintings, and some gorgeous frescoes on those vaulted and domed ceilings. You can see at the top of the main nave just the most beautiful marble work. It is stunning. I wasn't expecting to see this on our first day here. I always feel quite connected to Italy. My family are Roman Catholic, and that was the heritage and faith that we were raised in, and I think regardless of whether you're a practicing Christian or not, you can absolutely appreciate the beauty of these places.
Across the square is this gorgeous second-hand little bookshop that we took some time to peruse. I was still on my book buying ban when we were here, so I didn't really have any business to be having a good browse. I saw one or two little things and some really cute miniature editions of works that I liked, but I didn't buy anything. I was so good, I deserve 5 points. I brought with me on holiday a Frida McFadden thriller to read, something easygoing, and then some literary historical fiction by Tracy Chevalier, which I had in a physical copy, and I was enjoying reading both of those over the week or so that we were here. We spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the city on foot, and as it started to cool down a little bit, we then were ready for some food. We shared a seafood spaghetti, a slow-cooked, I think it was like an ox-type ragu, some calamari for starter, and then a side salad between us. Oh, and of course, finishing our first day with pistachio and chocolate gelato. The next day, the weather was still perfect, and we hopped across town on foot to visit the catacombs. These were beautiful. These are the catacombs of St. Gennaro, and they're a former Christian place of worship, and they're very different to other catacombs that I have visited. You can see how large and wide and open and how much they've excavated so that you can explore this site. I believe they originally did host the remains of St. Gennarius, or who is also known as St. Gennaro, who is part of the patron saints of Naples. These go back, I think these are to the 4th or 5th century, and these artworks and mosaics and like frescoes are so beautifully preserved. It's incredible to think how old they really are. We were lucky to have a really great, really friendly tour guide, and he took us around, and he was just so full of information and so passionate. It made it a really interesting and engaging tour. As we were finishing up our day, this particular square had been on my to see list because of this phenomenal monument to the poet Dante. So this square is called Piazza Dante in homage to the poet himself, and it is beautiful. I did not realise the size and scope. I'm just trying to show you, you can see me on the left versus the size of him. It's incredible, and look at his face. So Dante was originally writing in the 13th and 14th centuries, but this statue is from the 19th century, and it's such a beautiful commemoration to him. Of course, there is more pasta, pizza, carbs, courgette flowers on our daily errands. This was another church we spent some time in the afternoon. Again, they're free, they're beautiful to go visit. I can't remember the name of this one, but I thought it was striking because you can see how white and clean and neutral it is against the marble and the gold and the gilt. Whereas a lot of the churches we visited are obviously quite dark and much warmer. This was very unique and refreshing to see, which is why I did take pictures of this one. I did not.
Good morning, welcome back to the vlog. I appreciate I haven't chatted too much. We've been going, seeing lots of really lovely things. Today we are going to Pompeii, which I'm so excited about, and was one of the incentives to stay in Naples really, because it's a train ride away. We have booked tickets for the fast train, which should take us there in about 35 minutes, and then we're going to grab an Uber to the station from our apartment. So I just thought I'd take you along with me for the day. It's really warm. It's already in the low 20s, and it's like 7 in the morning. It looks like it's going to be a really warm day again. I have dressed unintentionally like my teenage grunge self, with like my really soft comfy t-shirt. I've got workout shorts kind of on. Everyone says prepare for Pompeii because it is a lot of walking, so I've just tried to go as comfortable as possible so I don't feel overstimulated and need to leave early, which kind of happens if you're neurodivergent sometimes. I want to be able to enjoy the day as much as possible, to see everything, and we've got a full ticket as well. We've got the one where you can go and see all the villas, all the parts of the excavation site, all the museums, that sort of thing. So I'm going to take you along with me, and I hope you enjoy.
I was so very excited to be finally visiting Pompeii. It has been something that I've wanted to see my entire life, and it felt like a true bucket list moment to be able to go and see it. It was part of the reason we chose to kind of stay in Naples. This was one of the biggest, most exciting things that I have ever experienced. Pompeii exceeded my expectations in every single way. It was beautiful and impressive, and we learned so much. I really recommend getting one of those little audio guides as well, so that you can walk around at your own leisure, at your own pace, rather than going with a tourist group, although apparently the tour guides are phenomenal as well. As you all probably know, Pompeii is a city that was covered and buried under a ton of volcanic ash in the wake of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. What remains is a beautifully preserved archaeological site that gives you the most incredible insight into Roman life. The weather on the day that we went was perfect. I would also say take a hat. Neither of us took a hat, and there is very little cover, as you can see from these pictures. And something I hadn't appreciated was the sheer size and scope of this site. You could spend a good couple of days here just exploring. We had one day, and I felt like I could have gone back for a second easily. I would also recommend taking extra water. We did, but I would say it's so dry and arid and dusty. I didn't realise how thirsty that would make me. I also was stunned to see how beautifully preserved these frescoes and artworks were. I wasn't expecting to feel so much awe and wonder at this place. I knew I'd be curious and excited and happy to see and learn more about this period of history. I didn't expect to feel so moved, which might seem really obvious and silly, but I just had the best time here. It was my favourite part of the trip. I mean, look at that detail. I also wasn't expecting the villas and these, oh, look at that walkway. It's just stunning. I wasn't expecting it to be so well preserved, and to actually physically experience it rather than just see it in pictures was incredible. Also, you can see Mount Vesuvius in the background there looming over everything. Something I'd also researched before was how much, can you see the size of those stones and those walkways? Wear your most sensible footwear. We both did, but we still rolled our ankles a few times. I would almost recommend hiking boots for traversing around and exploring everywhere you want to go. Do not wear flip-flops or sandals or anything like that. You want to be able to scamper around and explore without like breaking a leg. It is still an active excavation site, so when you're walking around you can actually also see workers uncovering or working on projects or digging things out, excavating them, and that was so fascinating to see in progress. There's also the most phenomenal, it kind of looks like a mini Colosseum, but not. It's an Odeon, I think, or there's a word for it. Someone will tell me. It was just incredible. And these little courtyards with flowers, and they had Pompeii vineyards as well. These beautiful, lush little green pockets throughout the site were just incredible. And kind of at the bottom of the site was this big, very humid kind of garden, sort of, towards this area of the site. And it felt entirely different from the top, higher up the hill parts of the site, which were much more humid and dry and arid. There is one small museum part of it which holds a lot of the bodies and the remains of the victims from this place, and I didn't want to film or share pictures in this video. I feel a bit ethically confused about whether that's appropriate. I didn't expect to feel so distressed seeing the bodies, which might seem really obvious to some people, but they were kind of frozen in the moment of their death, in their moment of pain, and I felt a little bit wobbly about firstly capturing it or filming any of that, and so I didn't. Also, it was a little bit triggering for my PTSD, to be honest, and I also wasn't sure if I agreed with them being displayed for people to see. I felt almost like these remains, maybe even if they were just plaster casts, some of them, I almost felt like they should be put to rest. Do let me know your thoughts on an issue like that, I suppose, because I know we will all have differing opinions, and I know that they provide a lot of learning for academics and scholars. But if that is something that you're interested in, they do have them at the site. It just wasn't something I wanted to share. And this is the remains of an active excavation site. You can see what they're pulling out. It is phenomenal. I can't believe they're still finding and excavating things. Of course, we can't go anywhere without checking the bookshop. Again, I was still on my book buying ban, but there's one this book. How gorgeous is that? If I hadn't been on my buying ban, I would have been very tempted. One of the things I would also recommend is when you get into Pompeii, walk as far as you can to the other side of the site and then kind of work your way back, because there's quite a bottleneck at the entrances of tourists and tour groups. And this meant we could walk and explore without so many people around us as we got there early in the day. So as part of the Pompeii experience, I'd recommend visiting this museum. This is the Naples Archaeological Museum, and it has most of what has been excavated from the Pompeii site. Whilst it does have other Greek and Roman and other periods of items as such, a lot of what is here comes from Pompeii, and it is beautifully, exquisitely preserved. This was another place where if I wasn't feeling a bit tired and sort of overstimulated at this point in the holiday, I could have spent a lot longer. We probably spent maybe 4+ hours here. I could have spent a lot longer. This museum is just beautiful, and it has so much space that everything has this really elegant and beautiful curation. Like, I've never experienced a museum quite like this. Sometimes when I'm in London, for example, it does feel like the objects are fighting for space, and here you can just see how beautifully presented it all is particularly in this marble gallery. You also experience a real sense of wonder looking at in this period of time, the sort of artworks and statues and the detail in these mosaics, like what they were creating is just phenomenal and staggering. There's also a number of beautiful frescoes, as well as an entire wing of the museum dedicated to some of the more explicit artwork, shall we say, that was rescued from Pompeii and other local sites that were, I think some of it was lifted from the brothel there, and that was quite spicy and amusing to see. We weren't expecting that. The next day we went to another type of catacomb. So this is called the Subterranea, or Naples Subterranea Catacombs. And what it looked like online from the pictures was very different from what we experienced in reality. So this is what it looks like from a lot of the pictures that you see. And then when you're actually in it, it is much narrower and darker, and it gets even smaller and narrower than this. I don't personally normally feel claustrophobia very often at all. It was not a phobia that I had before this holiday, and when we started going through the tunnels here, I'll show you a clip in a minute, I really started to feel very panicked and anxious. So you go through these tiny passageways, I don't know if you can see, and then you come out in these bigger spaces where they tell you about the history of the catacombs, but a lot of the time you're like this. There's a whole chunk of the tour where you're using your phone as your only light because it's not lit, and it's barely a foot wide, so I'm squeezing my giant tush through these little passageways, just counting my steps until we can get back out into another open space, and then realising we've got to go back into more passageways like this. It was horrible. And also because you're so far down in the earth, you're just thinking, oh my goodness. I don't think I learnt much from that catacombs tour because I was too busy just surviving. But later in the afternoon, we visited another beautiful church. So part of this you do have to pay for, and part of it you don't. The main part that I'm about to show you, you don't. This is free, which is, again, it's just staggering to me that institutions like this aren't charging for you to experience them. So this is the Royal Chapel of the Treasure of St. Januarius, who is also St. Gennaro, patron saint Naples. You get the idea. This is predominantly in a Baroque style, but look at that main altar. Oh my goodness. This was more extravagant and beautiful than I actually think some of the places of worship in Vatican City. We've done Vatican tours and been to Rome and stuff, and this was eye-wateringly beautiful. I mean, look at that. To the side of it, there are also relics and kind of a sepulchre, how do you pronounce it? I don't know. But there are these gorgeous frescoes in the domes to the side of this place as well. And you can see sort of remains and relics that have been kept. This is also the place where they allegedly keep the vase of blood from St. Gennaro. This is down in the crypt, and it was stunning. There's also a museum to the side where you can see more of the relics and objects and possessions that have been owned by members of the church throughout different periods of history. I mean, look at that. Oh my goodness. You will come out of here with neck ache because you spend the whole time just staring in awe at these ceilings. They are exquisite. It is incredible. I also fully appreciate if you aren't religious or into this kind of artwork, you are probably just astounded by the wealth and money that has been poured into these places of worship, and it is entirely not lost on me. I have struggled morally with how the church previously has spent its money or how it donates its charitable earnings, that sort of thing, and believe me, it is something that I'm very cognizant of.
Thank you so much for watching this video. As I said at the beginning, I just wanted to share some of the things that I wish I had known. These are the things that I didn't see in the romanticised view of this city, and there are beautiful things to love about this city, but there was a lot that I personally struggled with. If you are like me, before you go on a trip, you will probably look up the best things to do in that city, the best places to eat, or interesting experiences. You will watch TikTokers. We had watched Jamie Oliver's show, Eating Around Naples, and other celebrity chefs that had gone there. So we had a certain level of expectation, and this city did not match that in any way. I also want to add that we really explored the city. We didn't just stay kind of in the neighbourhood of our Airbnb. We were averaging like 25,000 steps a day. We were really exploring and sightseeing. We did not love or really enjoy the city, and I have I think about 6 or 7 reasons why we didn't, and each one of these alone is not a reason to write off a place or to not visit it or to say like never go here, but because of the 7 or 8 reasons together, that added up to having a not so great experience. Reason number 1 is crime. It is very rampant in Naples, and we weren't expecting quite large parts of it to not feel safe. This isn't just the well-known types of crime that it's known for, but there were high amounts of theft, pickpockets, personal robberies. There are people on mopeds and motorbikes trying to do grabby jobs. It created this constant need of staying on high alert, and that did create a little bit of anxiety in me when we were just out and about. Secondly, Naples is so noisy. I hadn't seen anyone talk about how noisy this city was. And we've travelled to quite a few European cities. I don't say that as a humble brag, but I also used to live and work in central London. I'm not unprepared for noise, but nothing prepared me for the noise levels in Naples. It is so loud. There is very constant traffic, horns, scooters, because of the sort of motorbike, moped culture. There's music. It was very overstimulating for someone like me who is also neurodivergent. Thirdly, the cleanliness. We didn't realise quite how filthy it would be, and we probably would have gone somewhere not quite like this for what we needed for a holiday in the spring, summer. There was overflowing rubbish on countless streets, not just where we were staying. There was so much broken glass, and when it's hot and you're walking around in sandals, realising you probably need to keep your trainers on most of the holiday. Beer bottles, all that kind of thing, like alcohol bottles just smashed in the street all the time. Lots of bad smells as a result of this rubbish just spilling out into the streets, and on more than one occasion there was drug-related paraphernalia, is what I'm going to say, left out on the street, which was quite dangerous. Fourth is the graffiti. Naples is famous, and it has a small, genuine amount of street art, which is beautiful, but a huge amount of it is just aggressive tagging and scribble on all the walls and all over the streets. And the tagging, the profanity of it, some of the more lewd drawings, shall we say, I'm not trying to be a prude, but the vandalism that covers so many of the buildings, the streets and public spaces, that was another thing that for me was very overstimulating. And again, this is just from my perspective and from a neurodivergent perspective, that I found the scribble on everything to be actually part of the overstimulation that I was experiencing in the city. Fifth is the amount of dog poo everywhere. Naples is a city made up of a lot of apartment blocks and has a gorgeous, wonderful little dog kind of culture. There seem to be a lot of people with lots of pets and lots of animals, but because of all the apartments, I'm wondering if because there's not a lot of gardens, people are just consistently letting their dogs foul in the street. You also spend a good chunk of time trying not to get hit by mopeds, but also not step in the dog poo that was everywhere, and it also smells quite bad. Point number 6 kind of builds off the back of that, which is a lot of the streets are actually used as public toilets. I don't know why. The alleyways and the side streets, if you're off a main road, a lot of the streets do not smell good because they are used to go to the toilet in. I don't know why. We also saw human pee and poo in some alleyways and things like that, and that kind of mess just isn't ideal. Also, catching another human being going for a cheeky piss in the middle of the day or more on your holiday is never like great, is it? And the final point is, point number 7 was the traffic and the mopeds and that kind of motorbike culture, because the people who live here do not kind of follow any kind of road safety or highway code as such. It's so flipping dangerous. Moped drivers, they slam around corners, they speed constantly, they don't care for pedestrians, they very much take the priority, not just of the roads, but the pathways, the streets. They will run across your toes. We saw a horrible incident on one of the main streets where someone had been taken out by a moped driver who just carried on and drove off. It's another part of the city experience that you're on alert because you're trying to navigate and explore and get to where you need to be, but also not get run over at the same time. People on motorbikes would drive, like I said, across doorways, across pathways, drive through markets and shopping centres and places that you're there, not shopping centres, but like through like shop fronts is what I would say. And unless you absolutely stay just on the main high streets, it feels less like you're enjoying sightseeing and experiencing the city and more like trying not to get run over and stay alive. And all of these reasons were that I felt like I spent so much of my time not able to enjoy the city because I was trying to be cautious of crime, cautious about stepping in rubbish or poo, certain things, certain messes that I've already discussed, but also trying not to get hit or taken out by a moped. It doesn't make for, especially if you're neurodivergent, a lot of those sights, smells, sounds are very overstimulating, not just for a regular city break, but for like any city break that I have ever been on. When you are around an attraction or a museum, they were a lot cleaner. So you had these little pockets that were beautiful and lovely, and God knows the culture in Naples is phenomenal, as you probably saw just from the handful of things that we saw during our stay there. But unless you were on top of a very popular attraction, say it was owned by the church or the state or something, they kept the premises beautifully clean. Like the museums were stunning, but the rest of the city and the streets across so many different areas were just not great. And I think I would have been able to cope with it a little bit better had I not been given a certain expectation or a certain picture of Naples before we got there, which is why when I uploaded this video, I wanted to share with you, yes, there are these exquisite, unique churches and museums and things that you can go see and do, but I also wanted to share the ugliness and the truth of it with you, because that wasn't shared with me by other people that I had watched or followed. So I hope you still enjoyed watching some of the travels and the adventures that I had in this video. My content will always be my life, the books that I'm reading, and generally what I'm getting up to. And I hope you don't mind me still sharing this video with you, even if it's ending on a bit of a bad note. I would be curious to hear your own experiences if you have ever traveled to a city or a place and it hasn't quite met your expectations, whether that was for better or for worse. And I think what this has taught me is just another lesson that how much of what you see on social media is not what things are in real life. And please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It's the easiest and freest and simplest way that you can help support my channel, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments.